You hear that phrase AI takeover, and it's easy to jump to, like robots hiding in plain sight.
Hmm.
But what if the real question isn't about robots taking over at all?
Right.
Like, what does it even mean to think or be creative or even be conscious?
Yeah, and that's what we're diving into today. We've got these excerpts from this conversation, right?
Yeah.
With these AI giants, Ray Kurzweil, Geoffrey Hinton.
Oh, I know those names.
Yeah, and it's hosted by Peter Diamandis.
Okay, yeah.
And they just get into it. They don't mess around. They get into the potential of AI and whether it's something to really be excited about or completely terrified of.
Well, let's get into it then. What are they saying?
So right away, they kind of challenge what we think of as creative, right? Like, what is creativity?
Okay.
So they use this example of AlphaGo,
Right.
the AI that beat world champions at Go, which is this really complex game.
I've heard of it.
And it wasn't just that it beat them, but it was making these moves that were so different and so innovative that even the professionals who'd been playing this game for years were like, wait a minute, is that even allowed?
Wow, so it was like coming up with these totally new ways of thinking about the game.
Exactly. And then they bring up the COVID vaccine, right, where AI was used to sift through billions of these mRNA sequences. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack the size of Jupiter, basically.
Oh, wow.
And boom, they found viable vaccine candidates so much faster than we could have imagined.
Because of AI.
Yeah, because of AI. So it begs the question, are these machines just really good at copying what we consider creative, or are they actually becoming creative in their own right?
Right, because if it's just mimicking, that's one thing. But if it's actually coming up with new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other level.
Exactly, and that's the core of it, And
Yeah.
Hinton, he argues that it's the AI's ability to see these patterns, these really complex patterns and these massive amounts of data that allows it to make these leaps in logic that our human brains, they miss.
It's like they're seeing the Matrix code or something, and we're stuck just seeing the numbers on the screen.
Right, exactly. It's like they see the bigger picture because they can process so much more information. And he gives this really interesting example. He's like, okay, what's the connection between a compost heap and an atomic bomb?
A compost heap and an atomic bomb. I mean, those seem like totally unrelated things.
Exactly, and that's what's so fascinating about it. The AI was able to find a common thread. Exponential growth.
Exponential growth.
Yeah. So a compost heap, right? The heat builds on itself and it speeds up the decomposition. It grows really fast.
Oh, okay.
And then an atomic bomb. It's the same idea, right? This chain reaction that just explodes exponentially.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's this underlying principle. And the AI was able to connect those two seemingly totally random things based on this shared principle. And that's the kind of thing that, as humans, we might not even make those connections.
Wow, that's wild. So it's finding these really abstract links that we just wouldn't even think to look for.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because if it can make these connections, is it actually thinking? Is it thinking in a way that even resembles how we think? Or is it something else entirely? Are we looking at a whole new type of intelligence?
I was like, what even is intelligence at that point, right? If it can understand things on a level that we can't even comprehend.
Exactly. And that's where the conversation gets even deeper. Hinton, he actually challenges our definition of consciousness itself.
Okay, how does he do that?
Well, he says we're too focused on this idea of an inner theater, this mental movie screen where our thoughts and experiences are playing out.
So like a constant highlight reel in our minds.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's saying that whole model is flawed. It doesn't really capture what consciousness is.
Okay, so if that's not it, then what is it?
Well, he says we should focus more on how individuals use language to actually describe their experiences.
So like how they talk about what they're feeling and thinking.
Exactly. He uses the example of someone saying they're seeing pink elephants. They're not describing something that's objectively real, but they're trying to express their internal experience.
Right, even if it's just like a hallucination or something.
Exactly. So his point is, instead of worrying about whether or not AI sees the world the way we do, maybe we should focus more on how it uses language to actually talk about its experience, even if that experience is totally different from ours.
So we should be looking at how AI communicates its inner world, even if we don't fully understand it.
Right. And here's where he throws this really interesting idea out there. He's like, what about chatbots? Those things we talk to online. He's saying that because they can communicate and they can generate human-like text, maybe, just maybe, they're exhibiting a form of subjective experience. Not necessarily emotions or feelings like we have, but a way of processing and responding that's unique to them.
Wait, so he's saying that chatbots, the things that like help us reset our passwords online, those might obviously be conscious on some level.
It's a wild idea, right?
That's a lot to take in.
It is. And Kurzweil, while he comes at it from a different perspective, he seems to agree. He's like, look, even if we can't prove or disprove it with what we know about consciousness right now, we should still treat these AIs as if they could be conscious beings.
So like give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right, because what if they are? And if they are, what does that mean for us? You know, should we be giving these AIs rights? Like the right to exist, the right not to be shut down?
Whoa, AI rights? Now we're getting into some serious ethical territory.
I know, right? And they don't shy away from it. The conversation goes deep on this whole idea of AI rights. And Kurzweil and Hinton, they have these really interesting different views on like the mortality of AI.
And the mortality of AI, what does that even mean?
Right. It's like, can you kill an AI? Can an AI die?
Yeah, that's kind of blowing my mind right now.
It's deep stuff. So Kurzweil, he's saying that AI, because it's digital, right? It could theoretically exist forever, you know?
Like we could just keep copying the code, right?
Yeah, exactly. Preserving its memories, its experiences, everything. But Hinton, he brings up a good point. He's like, the human brain, it's so complex, so intricate.
We don't even fully understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's saying, yeah, we might be able to copy an AI, but can we really recreate it? Like the essence of what makes it?
So is it more like, are we copying the file or are we copying the consciousness?
It's a really profound question. And, you know, on a more practical level, if we're talking about AI that could actually become more intelligent than us, shouldn't we be a little concerned about, you know, giving it too much power?
Right, because if we don't even fully understand how it works, how can we control it?
That's the big question, right? It's like we're building these amazing tools, but what if the tools start using us? And this is where Hinton gets into this whole thing about open sourcing AI models.
Okay, open sourcing. For those of us who don't live in the tech world, what does that even mean?
So basically, it's making the code for these AI systems available to anyone.
Anyone.
Yeah, anyone who wants to use it, study it, even change it. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing, right? It promotes innovation, collaboration.
Sure.
But Hinton's point is it could also be incredibly dangerous. He compares it to, like, leaving the blueprints for a nuclear reactor just lying around.
Okay, yeah, that's a scary thought.
Right. Like, if any random person with the right knowledge can create a really powerful AI.
That could be a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And that's what they keep coming back to, this tension between progress and responsibility.
Because on the one hand, you have the potential for amazing breakthroughs, like curing diseases,
Right.
solving climate change.
Exactly. But on the other hand, you have the potential for, well, something really bad happening that we can't control.
So what's the answer? Do we just lock it all down?
Yep.
Keep all the AI research top secret?
Well, it's tough, right? Because you don't want to stifle innovation. Hinton, he seems to be leaning towards more caution, like stricter regulations on AI development. But Kurzweil, he's more optimistic, I guess you could say. He still thinks we can manage the risks.
So find that sweet spot between progress and safety.
Right.
Not easy.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they both agree that this isn't just some sci-fi problem for future generations to deal with.
Oh, absolutely not. This is happening now. Kurzweil even puts a date on it. He calls it the singularity. He says 2045, that's when AI surpasses human intelligence.
2045. That's like tomorrow. What happens then? Do we just like hand over the keys to the planet and say, good luck?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? What does a world look like where machines can outthink their creators? It's uncharted territory.
And we're the guinea pigs, basically.
In a way, yeah. But Kurzweil, he seems to think it'll be okay. He's hopeful that humans and AI can coexist, work together to solve big problems.
Right, like a partnership. But even he admits there's a lot we don't know, right?
Yeah, of course. We're talking about a new kind of intelligence, something we've never encountered before. We can't predict how it will behave or what it will want.
Makes you feel kind of small, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like we're not the be-all and end-all of intelligence anymore. There might be something more powerful out there.
And that's exactly why this whole conversation is so important. We need to be having these discussions now while we still have time to shape the future of AI. Because if we just bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Well, that's when things could get really scary, right?
Exactly. We have to be proactive, ask the tough questions, be critical, and figure out what kind of future we want to build with AI.
It's a huge responsibility, but it feels like the future of humanity could depend on it. But how do we even start? Like, where do we begin to wrap our heads around something as complex as the rise of superintelligence? Yeah, it's like, how do we even get a grip on all of this? It's a lot.
It is. It's overwhelming, right? But you know what really struck me from their conversation? It's not just about the future. It's about the choices we're making, like, right now that are shaping all of this.
So we're not just passengers along for the ride. We're actually influencing where AI goes.
Exactly. And it's not just happening in those labs. It's every time we use a search engine, or scroll through social media.
Or talk to a chatbot.
Yeah, exactly. It's already everywhere.
I guess I never thought of it like that, but it's true. But those all seem kind of small compared to, the fate of humanity and superintelligence.
I know, right? But think about it. Like, those algorithms that decide what we see online, what we should watch next, what ads to show us,
Okay.
those are designed to keep us engaged, right?
Hmm.
To predict what we want, what will make us click or buy.
Because engagement equals data, and data equals money.
Exactly. So they're optimized for that. But what happens when engagement is the only goal? Like, what if they start favoring content that's more sensational, even if it's not true, because it gets a reaction?
Because outrage is a powerful motivator.
Exactly. So even if we start with good intentions, the way we design and use AI today could have these consequences later on.
We might not even see coming.
Right, exactly. And it just gets more complex as these AIs learn and adapt. Those consequences, they just get bigger.
So it's not just about making AI smarter. It's about making sure it reflects, like, our values, right? Our ethics.
100%. It's a huge responsibility, and it feels like it's on someone else's shoulders, but it's on all of us.
Okay, so no pressure.
Right.
Right. But
Yeah.
seriously, what can we even do? I'm not about to give up my smartphone and go live in the woods.
I hear you. But we can be more aware. Like, when you're using something powered by AI, just ask yourself, how does this work? What data was used to train this thing?
It's like checking the ingredients list before you buy something at the store.
Exactly. We need to be critical. Think about these things. AI is powerful. It's not just a cool gadget or a movie plot. It's real. It's here. And we need to learn to use it responsibly.
It all starts with asking questions, with being informed and having these conversations.
Exactly. It's not a done deal, We're all writing the story of AI with the choices we make every day. The more we know, the better we can shape that future.
That's a powerful thought. So listeners, next time you're scrolling through your phone or using some new AI gadget, take a second and think about the big picture. What kind of future are you part of building? The answer might surprise you. This has been a fascinating deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those questions coming.